He just said, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "I've got a 7-year-old daughter at home and she needs her dad, and my mum needs her son, and my girlfriend needs me, and her kids need me also. I've got 2 stepdaughters." And it was at that point where I grasped something that wasn't really there.
Welcome everybody to Unleash Your Greatness. I'm Adam Platt, and today I have a special guest on my show. His name is Paul Coghlan, and he is from Ireland. And I'm excited to have him on the show. He is a motivational and inspirational speaker, and he talks about the lessons he's learned through his journey of overcoming an acute and very aggressive form of blood cancer. And so, Paul, I'm super excited to have you on the show today and talk about your journey and how you overcame this cancer and your perspective that you gained coming out of it. So welcome.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for having me on and for choosing me as one of your guests on your Arise to Connect podcast. I'm very excited because I've not done things with Americans at all. I've been there plenty of the times and it's an amazing place. But I guess I'm on today because I made it. I guess I made a big decision for myself in 2018 after overcoming adversity that I would be very forthcoming to share my own story about illness and about how it can change your whole life and your perspectives, and how maybe the small little things that we take for granted can be some of the best memories you'll ever take, you know. So yeah, I'm excited to be on. Thank you.
Yeah, and you and I, we jumped on a quick Zoom a couple weeks ago, and it was super fun. I really enjoyed that conversation. So I was super excited waking up this morning and being like, oh, I get to talk to Paul again and share your story with my audience. And yeah, it's such an amazing story. And so I want to kind of have you just share that story real quickly and kind of what you went through. I know you have, you're working crazy amounts of hours in a job, and you were doing all these amazing things, and then just like this, big boom just hit you right in life. And so let's go to, I guess, wherever that starting point where you want to start with that story. It's an amazing story.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just go straight into it, really. I guess the first question anybody asks when they face adversity is, why me? And that was very much the case for me in 2018. I guess you might say my first meet with resilience happened when I was in my teenage years, where I developed a very bad stammer. And it became quite hurtful for me, really, because an awful lot of your life at that age is about being popular and being liked. And at that time, I had no confidence because of my stammer. So I guess that's where my resilience started. And of course, when you think you face a big challenge as a teenager, they're usually only pretty small, really, in the grand scheme of life for the majority of us. And that was very much the case for me. At 38 years old, I was working, as Adam said, about working quite a lot of hours and working hard. And I was physically training extremely hard. I was in the best shape of my life. Physically and mentally. I was out of a broken marriage, and I was becoming a better person for it. I was a lot happier. So, of course, when you think everything is going perfect, there's always a little challenge there waiting for you. And my one happened to be a little bit bigger than just a small little hurdle, really. After 2 weeks of feeling unwell and my energy was kind of low, but I was still able to function. And a couple of days before I was diagnosed with a very serious illness, I had, spent 3 hours mowing lawns, and I played 18 holes of golf. So as much as I was feeling a little bit weak and a little bit tired about life, I was still able to function. So on Thursday, the 10th of May, 18, my health had deteriorated that week. And I woke up that morning to go to the bathroom at about 5 a.m. And for some reason, I looked into the mirror when we should be walking around with one eye open, really, because we're that tired at 5 a.m. I just noticed that I had a mark, and I had to stop, and I reversed back on to where the mirror was, and I noticed I had a black eye. And this, as well as not feeling well for the previous 2 weeks, was very alarming. So I decided, I'm going to go to my kitchen and I'm going to get a glass of water. And when I went to get the water, I couldn't swallow it. It was a real challenge. It was like two little knives rolling up and down my throat. So I was very, very, very concerned. My girlfriend lay in bed, and she's not really one for swinging her arms around the place. So I don't think it was her that gave me the black eye. So I popped into the shower, and when I came out, I just went, I really need to get to this doctor. No, I had made an appointment to see my GP at 11 o'clock. But as he arrived into his surgery at 9, I was waiting for him. And on him seeing me, he immediately said, what happened that? And when I said that, I mean the mark under my left eye. He said, I just said, listen, I have no idea. I actually don't know. I hadn't been playing any, AstroTurf football or no contact sport for those 2 weeks. And all of a sudden, I sensed a real air of urgency and panic from my GP, which wouldn't be like him. He's a very relaxed type of character. And he said, I'm going to send you up to the main clinic on the west of Ireland here. I'm going to send you to Galway, which for me, living in Westport on the west coast of Ireland, a beautiful town, I must say. There's my kind of plug for the west of Ireland. Going to Galway was about an hour and 50 minutes away. So I was feeling extremely weak at this point. So I rang my mum and I said, can you bring me to Galway, please? I'm going to get my bloods taken. And of course, that was no problem, like any mum or dad would do for all of their children. And on driving through my hometown in Westport, I stopped at my chemist, who's a personal friend, my pharmacist, and he looked at me and said, rather than going to where you've been referred to, you can go to the Galway clinic, which is about 5 minutes further, but you have to pay for that because it's a private hospital. He said that might be one of those bills that you might not mind paying. And I took this very literally because he's an amazing guy who has been amazing to me over the last number of years. And so I went up and my bloods were taken. And after, a couple of minutes, and 45 minutes later, they came in and said, we need to take a second sample because your blood reading is kind of, way, way off where it should be. And I said, okay, that's fine. No problem. As bad as I was feeling, I was still able to have a conversation. I wasn't too worried. I just thought this is a viral infection or something that's just taking a little bit hold, more so than maybe with somebody else. So they took the second sample, and when they came in about 30 minutes later, he said to me, have you got somebody with you? I said, my mum. And his question was kind of funny. He said to me, what color jacket is she wearing? And I said, yellow, I think. And he said, we're going to go and get your mum to come in here. And that's where things started to spiral, because he asked me a question he asked mum, have you got a car? Can you drive Paul over to the University College Hospital, the other hospital in Galway? A fantastic hospital, amazing place. And he said, yeah, because we don't have an ambulance available. And of course, me being me and my personality, I just went, what do you want an ambulance for? Sure, I can drive myself over. I'm fine. And he said, you need to get over there quickly. So I want you to drive in the bus lanes so you don't get delayed in any way. And when you get to this hospital, don't go to accident and emergency. Don't go to the general admissions department. You need to get up to this certain ward called the Claddagh ward in the new part of the hospital. And I just went, okay, they want to get me in and out as quick as I can so I can go home, feel great, and get back training. Yeah. And I've got a daughter, Sienna, who's phenomenal, and I'm going to get back and we're going to go to the beach and we're going to do all the wonderful things that I had planned. And in my future, at that time, these were all very manageable. But all of a sudden, my life changed. And it's amazing when I look back now, those things about going to a beach or going for an ice cream or a nice walk through a woods or, that's when everything changed. because when I got to the Claddagh ward, I was met by two nurses I've never met before, and they knew my name. And I just went, okay, this is serious. So they put me into room 18, and that's where a lot of my journey was to start from. Really, I guess.
Wow, such a crazy story of, some things to keep in perspective here is you were a very healthy person. You were very active, going out and playing sports and taking care of yourself. You were high energy, getting in good physical condition. You were in a good place mentally, and then just like a sledgehammer hitting you on the side of the head, you've all of a sudden come down with this crazy cancer, and it was so fast and so progressive. And I when we talked before, I remember you telling me that they were surprised that you were even walking around, like that you were even coherent, because of the blood levels were so out of proportion and things like that. Like they were amazed that you were able to even function. And
Yeah.
I think, there's a couple things I want to just pick your brain on real quick. Is number one, you mentioned your daughter and your future with her and going to, do things with her. Was that kind of like the driving force to be like, hey, I need to do this for her, I need to get better for her? Or was there something else that was driving that?
Well, when I went into hospital, and there was a lot of panic going on. There was blood's been taken, and there was bone marrow biopsies been taken. Avoid them for anybody who's on your podcast, because they're not very pleasant at all. But they ultimately saved my life, because when I went into hospital, the real roller coaster of the event started almost immediately. I mean, so I went into hospital on a Thursday, and on the Friday morning, I spoke to my consultant, and as an Irish person does, when we want an answer, we'll keep asking and we'll keep asking and we'll keep asking until we get the answer. Sometimes we don't want, but we will get the answer because we're kind of a persuasive nationality, really. And I said, listen, what are my chances here? What are my chances here, etc. And he was reluctant. He just kept saying, you're extremely sick. We're very surprised you walked into this hospital because of your readings. So my white blood cell count was off the charts. Where, as a reasonably healthy person, approximately your cells, your white cells, should be between 4 and 10 or 11,000 or 12,000, and mine were like, in the space of 3 hours, went from 150,000 to 235,000, and this was basically leukemia going absolutely crazy and taking over my body, and doing its best to kill me in the process, if we want to be very blunt. When I pushed my consultant and his team, he said, we're looking at less than 10% chance here. And I took that as being, this, so I've got a 90% chance, because I'm quite a positive person. And when he said to me, look, you're on the low end of the 10% bracket to survive. We don't think we will see you here in 3 days' time. So what we have to do is, we have to start chemo almost immediately. And that's not done with leukemia patients in Ireland because of your organ health. Because leukemia, of course, is a blood cancer. So you got tubes that run right into your heart, and they put pressure on every single organ. So it was at that point that I started crying. And I cried quite a lot. And my consultant is quite a stern-faced, you're a typical serious illness a consultant. There isn't really a lot of there's not a lot of jokes in this area. And he just said, why are you crying? And I said, I've got a 7-year-old daughter at home, and she needs her dad, and my mum needs her son, and my girlfriend needs me, and her kids need me also. I've got 2 stepdaughters. And it was at that point where I grasped something that wasn't really there, Adam, if I'm totally honest. They were giving me no chance. They were going to give me chemotherapy that could have killed me if any of my organs had not been in good condition. And I guess it was at that point where I just went, no, you won't. When I started chemotherapy on the Friday evening, I was told there would be a lot of hallucinations and a lot of stuff that I wouldn't have known what went on. If I'd gained any infection over that period, I wouldn't survive. So my brother flew back from Chicago, another brother in Dublin in Ireland, and another brother who lives in my hometown. And they were all up with my girlfriend and my mum. And the word is that if Paul gets an infection over the weekend, he's going to die. Paul got pneumonia on Saturday morning.
Oh.
And yeah, I have no recollection of it at all. So the fantastic medical team that I had watching over me, and my dad, maybe he was up in heaven, and an awful lot of well wishers and prayers and relics and everything else that can be wished upon me was in a positive way. And it was at this point that I got through that fine. And people were shocked. And when I came around to myself, and maybe on the Tuesday morning, the doctor says, I have no idea how you're still here. I'm by the readings, you're just hanging on, but you're sitting up today and you're talking to me. They went on to explain that for the first 9 days of my hospital admission, I would receive 23 sessions of chemo that would probably kill me, but it was our only chance to maybe survive.
Wow.
So going back to your question, which I've veered off a small bit, so I apologize. My daughter was making her first communion on the exact date I got ill, 12 months from that point. And I promised myself that I would not miss that. And I used every positive thought, every positive thought to me was a perspective to my future. I visualized on what would happen. I was 39 years old when I went in, and I visualized that I would get home for my 40th birthday, 2 months after being diagnosed, just for one day, because I promised my daughter I would cut my birthday cake with her. I'm a Liverpool fan here, from the English Premiership, so I had a Liverpool cake that she helped to make. And when it came to those days, Adam, very close to those days, my counts after the chemo were not good, and I had to get some blood transfusions in. And again, they said, it looks like you're going to be a week late going home. And I said, I will be home for my birthday. It was on a Wednesday. And 2 days before that, they were like saying, if you have another good day here, we are going to allow you home because we know how important it is for you. And I got home for my 40th birthday.
Wow.
It was at that point that I sat my daughter down and I said, Sienna, we will see the brighter days because I promise you. Now, on the line of medicine, and you know, I could have been proved wrong, but it was so important for me to be positive, but also to bring a positive perspective to my daughter. Wow. That was as important for her as it was for me, really. So yeah, that was vital for me.
Wow, that's amazing. And I love that you had this just positive outlook, and even in the face of such a traumatizing thing for most people, and I'm sure it was for you as well. So many things that you were going through, you still had like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep a positive attitude. I'm going to beat this thing. I'm going to go home and I'm going to cut my cake with my daughter. I'm going to see her on her special day and her communion and all those things. So amazing. And I think that when we face hardship or adversity, like, and there are different levels for everybody, right? Like, I mean, you were talking earlier about when you were a teenager and having a brain tumor, and he's like, that was such a small thing compared to what I had to go through later in life. But for most people, even today.
No, I had a stammer, just so we're clear. I had a speech impediment. Sorry.
Oh, gotcha. Stammer. Gotcha.
Okay, sorry.
No. But even that, like, it can be a traumatic thing for people, even in their adult years, right? So, but the fact that you came out of this situation with such a positive outlook on what your future looks like. And I think people so often get stuck in the now, like, oh, this is awful now. This is hard now. This is awful thing that I'm going through. And they forget to look to the future and be like, when I get through this, things are going to be better. Things are going to be amazing in a different way, right? Like, I'm sure your life is different now than it was 2.5 years ago or almost 3 years ago.
Yeah.
so it's different, but it's a good different because you were able to push forward and move past this horrible
Mm,
thing happening in your life. So I'm so grateful that you brought up the fact that you had this positive vision of your future and not getting stuck,
mm,
even though you were, chemo is an awful thing, right? I mean, you were probably
absolutely.
puking, you were probably not feeling well, you probably had low energy. I haven't gone through it myself, but I've heard people who have, and it's
Yes,
not a fun thing to go through. So to keep that mindset, that perspective when you're going through all that is just absolutely amazing. It shows true resilience on your end.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I
And
love that.
resilience for me is like not just about being strong. Resilience for me is well, I've wrote about how what resilience is, and to me, there's three types of resilience. There's the physical, the emotional, and the mental. And I went through every single one of them, not in that order, but when you have any adversity, whether it's mental health, whether it's a bad virus, whether it's cancer, whether it's a kidney transplant or whatever, you are going to go through the ups and downs, and every one of them is going to bring in some sort of challenge. And if there's one thing that I can bring to any person listening to this podcast, or if I'm in a business or a school or a sports organization, and I speak about, don't forget that your struggle is your strength. And people often ask me why. I said, well, for me, and I often use my own example because at least by somebody who's been through it, they can explain it better, is that I struggled physically, mentally, and emotionally during my cancer journey. And I'm an awful lot stronger from it in each of those areas. I think that any person who faces a challenge, I mean, I actually look at younger people now, and I'm very worried because of social media, of body image, of so much going on, particularly with like youth, and they have to be a good dancer on TikTok or all sorts of this stuff, right? That there's so much pressure there, and that I think it's easy to quit, but by not quitting, you'll become a stronger person. And I just think that's so important to get that message across to, particularly to younger people, because older people should get it, and maybe they have a choice. Because again, this comes back to perspective, and I talk about this day in day out, even speak to myself about it.
Yeah.
I practice gratitude every single day, because when I think it's a bad day, I always write down three different things that made me happy. Three things that have made me happy on that day. And someday you might be have to have a little row with your wife or your partner, or your kids have driven you bananas or whatever. Your football team has lost a match, but there is something good there. Whether it was you had a laugh before the game, or your daughter gave you this smile that you won't tell you she loves you, but you know by that smile that you are her hero. And every single person on this earth, in my opinion, this includes you and your family and your parents and everybody, is that everybody is a hero to somebody. And I said this to a young guy of 16 in Westport a couple of months ago. And he said to me, I'm not a hero to anybody. Jesus Christ, I broke up with my girlfriend. I rowed with my parents, blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, okay. I said, so life is terrible, right? He went, oh, yes. I said, have you done anything nice? No. I said, what's your younger brother's name? Peter. And well, what did Peter do? Oh, he said, actually, that was funny. He said, earlier on, I fixed a puncture on his bike. All right. I said, how did that make you feel? Good, good, good. And I said, can you imagine how Peter felt? He said, what? I said, he wanted to ride his bike. He couldn't, but you came and you fixed it. So to him at that point, you're his hero.
Mm.
Everybody is a hero in some walk of life. And I just want people to believe that, because it's so true. People look up to you every single day and you don't even notice.
Right. I love that. And thanks for sharing that. That's, the whole premise of my show is there's greatness in each one of us. And greatness doesn't have to be this, you're this huge, amazing, prolific figure. It can be you're a hero, like you said, to a sibling, to a parent, to a friend, to a coworker, to
Yeah.
anybody, right? Like we can impact our world. Maybe that impact is, you know, small, or maybe it can grow bigger, and depending on what you want to do with it, but we can tap into that greatness and become the hero to those around us in some form or another. And so I love that, uh, that story. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's
No
beautiful.
problem.
I absolutely believe that as well, that there is a hero, there is greatness in each and every person. And
And that might be something so, so simple. That might be like holding a door open for a person coming out of a shop, helping somebody with their shopping.
yeah,
That could be, a shop owner saying that, the chocolate spread you want is down there on the right hand side when you're in a rush. It could just be something. I mean, like there's so much that we do every single day that we don't even realize, but it's helping somebody somewhere, whether it's a business owner in these terrible times that we now live in, that you're supporting them
right.
rather than going to a big chain, supermarket chain or something. So like me being on your show without bigging you up here, as in like I'm doing a podcast for this guy in the States who I've never met, bar one other call. So I don't know you at all. But I'm so grateful that I'm able to express this, because my whole vision going forward is I do go into organizations and speak, but like I want to make a big impact,
Mm.
and I want to share my own story to help somebody on their journey. And then that's just what I really want to go and share now, because I've had this second chance, really.
Yeah, I love that. So amazing. And I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said that sometimes it's just the small things throughout the day that you do to impact other people's lives. Sometimes it's just a smile to someone on the street. Sometimes it's just a quick hello. I've seen people, I've been at a grocery store, and the cashier is having a horrible day. And I get up to the register and say, "How are you doing today?" And I give her a big smile, and her whole demeanor changes because someone actually cared. And
Yeah.
that's amazing when you just through those small acts can impact people's lives.
Mm.
And maybe the next day they don't remember it, who knows, but for that moment you impacted them in some small way. Yeah. And it goes out, right? Like
Yeah.
I truly believe that. So, and what you're doing, going in and talking to people and sharing your story, your ability to overcome this traumatic, horrible thing in your life with such a positive outlook is changing lives. Like that, there's no way you can share that story in front of other people and show where you are today and not have it impact people's lives. It's super
Yeah.
amazing. And thank you so much for being willing to do that and going out and sharing that story.
No problem. I
So
enjoy it, actually.
yeah, I'm sure it's always so amazing for anybody, I think, when they can impact other people's lives, especially when, like you said, you want to create this big impact on people. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. So
Yeah.
cool. I'm so grateful that you're out there doing that. So, what do you think? Let me ask you a few more things about resilience, because I love that you talked about the three different areas of resilience. Let's kind of
Mm.
dive into that a little bit. I want to kind of pick your brain a little bit more on that topic. And what would you say is kind of the top thing people need to kind of have resilience in their life? I mean, obviously a positive attitude, like you demonstrated during your bout with cancer. What else? What was some of the other key things that people need to have that resilience in their life?
Look at I mean it's a great question, and I really love answering it, because the way I answer it sometimes is by giving little tools about how somebody might build resilience, because there is resilience in us and we have to make some choices with that. So I guess, some of it is about, do people focus on the good and the positive, or the bad and the negative? Because by us focusing on the good that we have, even through adversity, that can help us remain positive and open-minded, and it can help us reach out to people when we need help. Or do you lie back and say, poor me, and I hope this works? Because by visualization and manifestation, you're bringing a positive attitude to it. But if you don't, it's going to bring you down. And by bringing you down, it's really going to quash in that little bit of hope you might have. I mean, hope is absolutely massive.
Yeah.
And even though it feels like there is no hope when you are given a cancer diagnosis or mental health or some invisible illness that nobody knows anything about for you, whether it's bereavement or something, that staying positive and focusing on the good in your life will help you develop more. On the other side, I guess it's a choice you make. You want to be a victim or a victor. And that's not an easy choice. And I don't say that in any disrespectful way at all. But sometimes to help with your hope and with your courage by going forward and facing this adversity that you face now and being open and being very honest about it and asking the questions and not holding back, I believe that you will build a resilience you never knew you had. And by building a resilience, you're uncovering this strength within yourself that I can now look back on and actually go, geez, I really did well there. I'm an awful lot stronger than I thought I was, not just physically, but mentally. When it came to emotional resilience is where maybe it took me a little while to kind of deal with that. So I was in a hospital and you're very much going through the fight or flight. So
Right.
you're going to fight this and you're going to do your best and you're going to do the right things and do as you're told, which haven't always come naturally to me, doing what I'm told. But you know, when you're in hospital and these guys are doing their best for you, you know, I think it's pretty important that you do as you're told, or you get a slap on the wrist, you know. But yeah, it was during a 6 month hospital stay that I was in hospital for that you know, I started to feel very lonely. And there was only one day in 6 months that I didn't have a visitor. So I had the most amazing support and people encouraging me and people show me how I can find more courage and how to keep it there. And if I need anything to ask. And so, you know, I'm extremely lucky to have a great support team around me. Um, but I did struggle on occasion, and I broke down a few times, crying and kind of that feeling in your tummy. You know, when you have this feeling of it's an emptiness. I felt lonely, and I felt like I was letting my daughter down and my girlfriend down because I wasn't at home. I wasn't fulfilling these promises. We were meant to go to Italy to a campsite, which is something I want to do for many years in that summer, and I let everybody down. In hindsight, I didn't let them down. It was out of my control, but it took me a little bit of time to come around and actually say, it's not my fault. We will get there. It'll just take a little bit extra time. And it took me a little bit of time to maybe work on being kind to myself on the emotional side of kind of life, really. But I mean, like, you know, I mean, having support and leaning out to people, you know, these people who ring you and they say, if there's anything I can do for you, please ask. And the majority of the time, they'll never ask.
Right.
I got to a stage where people kept asking, and my phone and text messages and WhatsApp messages were going crazy. Paul, I can't believe it. Best luck, Anthony, I can do. So when I started to get stronger in maybe got sick in May, so maybe end of July, start of August, I actually went, oh, that guy's going to start mowing my lawn, and the house has to be painted this summer. And you know, call up lads whenever I'm kind of strong enough to go so we can walk the beach in Galway City. I said, you know, so I started to ask, and I think that was very important for me to build my own self belief that I can ask and it's okay to ask. And you know, maybe in a few minutes I might do just a little talk on an invisible illness. But I mean, you know, for me, resilience is becoming stronger, asking people, leaning on people, being expressive about your emotions, and you know, just appreciate the little wins. Every little win is a little step forward to success, and that's where I got to, you know.
Wow. Beautifully described and outlined for sure. I love that you brought up the asking for help. I think so many people are afraid to ask for help, and you're right. So many people will be like, "Hey, if you need anything, please let me know." And so many people don't ever take them up on the offer. And some people just mean it as a nicety, right? We all,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
but it's kind of like, if they say it, then you should be willing to say, you asked if I needed anything. I really do need this. I need help with this. I need that. And so many people are afraid to ask for that help because they don't want to look weak. They don't want to look like they're not able to get through whatever they're going through, or they just don't want people to know what they're going through, I think is a part of it as well. And
Yeah, absolutely.
that's a societal thing. And I think most societies have that, where we just don't want people to know what we're going through, and or we don't want to look weak. But I loved what you said earlier, where your struggle becomes your strength. And that's a powerful statement. I've heard things like honor the struggle, or things like that from other people, where it's like, the struggle is where we grow. And
yeah.
And like you said, once you kind of lean into that struggle and you're willing to face it, regardless of what the outcome is, like you came out of it so much better, and you came out of it, beating for now the cancer and getting past it. Some people don't. Some people don't get through that.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But if they can lean into it for that short time, they can become a better person, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I love that you've talked so much about keeping that resilience, that positive attitude, even though you had days that were tough. You had those emotional times where you felt like you were letting people down. And I think we all feel that too. Like there's times where I felt I was letting my family down or people around me down. And it really took a toll on my life. And it's hard to feel like you're not being a person that you want to be for the people that you love, and just being able to get past that and forgive yourself and move past that. So, especially when it's out of your control, right? Like there's nothing you could do about it. You weren't well enough to go to Italy. Like you couldn't do anything, right? So you just, at that point, you just have to forgive yourself and be like, it's out of my control. I'm doing the best I can, and I'm going to keep fighting in the way that you best can. So so many great points there.
And I mean, like I could now have passed away, and my daughter would say my dad lied to me. But for that time, it was that important for me to fill her with positivity. I mean, if I could have filled her up with a fluid, I'd have just covered her in and said, it's going to be fine. I mean, there was little points during my cancer journey where things were turning a little bit negative, and it was like, well, this has happened, a small little operation here, or small in the grand scheme of things was pretty small. And every time I just thought, oh, don't make a liar out of me to my daughter. Because I've always said, when daddy promises something, I'll come good on it, I promise. So when I made this promise, I guess I put myself under massive pressure, really, because the one thing you don't want to let down is your kids, right? I mean, that's just the most important thing in the world. But it is to me. I mean, my daughter is my rock. She's, I mean, I've often said to my own parents, and I've often said to my friends, is that you can love your parents, you can love your siblings, you can love your wife, you can love your girlfriend, but there's no love that comes near the love you have for your kid. Nothing even close. Yeah. When I broke the news to my girlfriend, it took her a few days to get over it, but she was okay. She got there. She was okay.
Yeah. That's so true. I remember when our first daughter was born, and I never thought I could love someone more than my wife. And when I held that little girl first time I have 5 daughters, and every time it's been the same thing. But every time I've held, especially that first one, is just like, yeah, there's nothing like that love, like you said. There's just nothing.
No, it's phenomenal. 5 daughters.
5 daughters. Yep.
That's busy. That's busy.
They keep us going. So it's Saturday.
Man, as long as they stay happy, hey.
Saturday here in the US. Yeah. I'm surprised you haven't heard them.
No, not a word.
One of them will probably try to come in here at some point. They usually try to when they're home, but no.
That's okay, man. That's all life. That's all good.
But they are a lot of fun, and there is nothing like that love for your kids, for sure. So Thank you. I also I want to circle back a little bit to when you brought up hope and how important that is uh, in the journey of going through your struggles. And it can be any struggle, right? Like yours was cancer. For other people, it's like you say, mental health or health issues and other types of forms. Uh, but when you give up that hope and you decide, I'm done, I don't want to fight this anymore, that's when everything I think just goes downhill. And you have to have that hope. I remember reading the book by Viktor Frankl when he Man's Search for Meaning, and he talks about how, and I don't know if you've read it or not, but
No.
so he was a Jew during World War II over in Austria. So of course he was put in a concentration camp, and the whole book is his experience of going through basically some of the most horrific conditions a human being can possibly live with, right?
Yeah, shocking.
But the whole book kind of outlines what he went through. He survived 3 years in different concentration camps, and of course he went to Auschwitz, the worst one for a time, and survived that. And one of the main reasons was because he was a psychiatrist, so he had a lot of mental stuff. But because he was a psychiatrist, they'd be like, "Oh, you're a doctor. You're going to help take care of the weak people, right?"
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but he faced a lot of still horrible things. Um, but he could, in that book he outlines, they could literally could uh, time down to almost a day when one of the other uh, people in the camp, one of the other prisoners would die because they give up all hope. And it was just amazing. He's like, we knew, like, as soon as they hit a certain state of their mind, they give up. They're like, I'm not getting out of bed. I'm done. I'm not doing it. Like, we knew it was within a day or so that they'll just pass away. And that hope is such a powerful driver when you're facing hardship, when you're facing struggle, when you're facing adversity in your life. You have to have that hope. You have to have that. So I'm so glad that you brought that up and talked about that. It's such a powerful thing that we all need to keep in mind when we're going through these hard things in our life. Is have hope. Tomorrow is a new day. The sun is going to rise. It's things are going to change, and look for the small things,
Absolutely.
the small wins, like you said. So
When I go into to some organizations, and depending on the atmosphere within that room and the age profile, like, etc., particularly with younger people, I often just go in, and I speak about, look at how every day is going to be tough. There's going to be a tough part in every single day. There's a good chance that you're not going to smile all day, every day. And if you do, I want the recipe for it, right?
right.
So I often use the analogy of, I get a book, a colored book, say, with colored pages in it. And I open up the book and I just said, today you're on this page. Okay. And on this page, there may be some bad stuff here, maybe some good stuff or whatever, and that's all fine. But for that really, really bad period that you think, I'll never get over this, remember that when we turn the page over, it's a new day.
Yeah.
And on that new day, something will happen that's going to be positive. Look forward to that day. And I might go through the book 3 or 4 times and say, so in here, you get diagnosed with cancer. Can you believe that? But the following day, you're going to see your daughter for the first time in 2 weeks. And the next day, we're going to have an operation that's going to help you. And this is the analogy that I use about hope and about focus and about looking forward to a brighter future. Because, I don't know what type of percentage I could possibly say, but for the majority of people with a positive attitude, they're going to see a brighter day in the future. Unfortunately, for people who have a more negative thought or maybe may have some medical stuff going on, that maybe they don't see a brighter day, I guess I have spoken to a few people, and I've often noted that, nobody knows what's going on behind your particular head, or you're behind your closed doors in your house. And that's very important. And this brings me on to, if you don't mind, just for a second, it's something that I really like speaking about, is about an invisible illness. Nobody knows what's going on behind your door and your head. And I often reassure people really that nobody, including you and me, Adam, are perfect.
True.
And there's always something going on, whether it's a bad choice we have made in work or business or relationships or finances or something, but we haven't always made the right choice. Nobody's perfect. And I am proud to say that I don't think it. And I'm even more proud when I say I don't want to be perfect. I don't even want to be close to be perfect. Now, in saying that, I don't have a chance of that happening. So, I mean, like, I do so many silly things, that's never going to happen to me. But, and that maybe, just maybe, by helping people understand what you're going through, whether that's positive or negative, whether you're about to get engaged and you're really excited about it, like, tell people that will listen, and they'll give you solid advice, and they'll give you a tap on the back and tell you doing the right thing. Or at certain times, maybe say, no, would you not think about that just in case it backfires a small bit? But it's just about people who face adversity often feel that they're not being heard, or that they feel like they should be doing something that the other person with the same diagnosis, they're out walking. They say a lady with breast cancer, she's out walking after three months, and I don't have the energy to like do it. I think if a few notes I've made today to you guys, and I really hope that you take some of them on your journey going forward. But don't forget that life is your journey at your speed.
Yeah.
And just be conscious that if you rush, you're probably going to fall backwards. So just don't forget that it's your journey at your speed. You're going to make choices, and just have good people around you. And whether you fall or whether you grow, at least you're going to have people there to bring you on that journey. So that's just.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. And you're so right. The journey, every day is a new page that we get to write. And just because you might have one bad chapter in your story doesn't mean that the whole story is horrible, right? And
absolutely
can't be beautiful. So I love that. And you're right. We don't know what other people are going through, and we shouldn't judge ourselves by what other people are capable of, or what their struggles are compared to our struggles, or vice versa.
There's no comparison. We cannot compare anyone's journey. So if you have mental health and I have mental health, it doesn't mean mine is worse or yours is like worse. It's about how it makes you feel. It's a bit like cancer, or a bit like any other illness or adversity. It's about you. It's your journey. You be kind to yourself, because there's only one of you.
Yeah. So true.
It's true.
Yeah, I believe that as well. And I love, there's a gentleman I follow on Instagram who he's an Ironman. He's a triathlete. And one of his biggest claims to fame is he did what is called the 50-50-50, which here in the US, we have 50 states, right? So he did 50 Ironmans or 50 Ironman races. They weren't like actual like sanctioned Ironmans, but they were an Ironman length race every single day for 50 days in 50 states. So he did them all in all 50 states. And one of the things that he talks about in the documentary that you can watch on, I believe it's still on Netflix, but he's called the Iron Cowboy, by the way, if anybody listening wants to go check him out. He's got a super inspirational story. But in every state, he invited people to come run the last 5 kilometers with him. So the last 3 miles. And they could come and run the last little bit. And the last 5 states he was in, his mother decided she was going to come and run the last 5 kilometers with him. And she was not a super fit person, but she's like, I'm going to do this. And she trained for a couple months beforehand to prepare. And he said that every single time she was the last person to come past the finish line, but she did it. All 5 states in all 5 days, she finished that 5K. And he was super proud. And one of the things he's saying is, my heart is not the same as my mother's heart. For my mother, it was hard to finish that 5 kilometers every day. For me, it was hard to do 50 Ironmans in 50 days in 50 states. So everybody's heart is different. Everybody's journey is a little bit different. And we just can't compare ourselves, because everybody has their struggles. Everybody has their hardships. And And when we try to say, well, I can't do 50 Ironmans, well, no, but maybe your hard thing is overcoming cancer, or maybe your hard thing is just getting out of bed this morning because you're so bogged down in life. You got to look for those wins, I think, every day. So, yeah. Anyways, I just
little
wanted
wins make a big difference, Adam.
Absolutely. So I just wanted to put that out there, and that kind of was what came to my mind as you were talking about your story and keeping that in perspective. So I love that. So Paul, I've absolutely loved our conversation. I think your insights are amazing. Your story is just mind blowing that you were able to overcome such a horrible thing, and that you're healthy. You're out there sharing this story and this message with other people right now, and you're still there for your daughter. That's the most important thing. That's awesome. So thank you for sharing that. I want people to have a chance to find you and connect with you. What's the best way for people to connect with you if they want to learn more about what you do with your coaching, with your speaking?
Yeah, look at anybody who is looking to connect. I'm always good for a chat, as you probably have noticed from this podcast. I'm never short of a word, really. So you can contact me on www.paulcoghlan.ie. There's a free book on there, actually free ebook there for anybody who'd like to download that. And that's just about my own story and about resilience, and maybe how you guys can relate to that. There's an online course that I'm very, very proud that I've eventually done, because it wouldn't be my comfort zone, but it's something I wanted to share. So that's 12 insights into maybe how my journey can help you on your journey. And look, at anybody can contact me on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram is at paulcoghlan78 and Paul Coghlan on Facebook. So anybody looking to connect, don't be shy. We can always connect, and I look forward to it, really, to be honest with you. I love talking to people about it, because it really can enhance somebody's life by speaking about it, so I'm very open and welcoming me if you want to connect. So
yeah, and I'm super glad that we've connected, and I now consider you a friend and someone Absolutely. That I'm super happy to be associated with. So you have a great story, and you're super fun to talk with. Anybody who's out there listening, connect with Paul. He's got an amazing perspective, and he's just super fun. So I think I laughed more during our little chat before our little pre-chat than I have in quite a while, actually. So super fun and awesome talking with you. And those listening, please go out and check out his website, grab that ebook. If you want to learn more about his story and resilience, the 12 things that he talked about there, or his online course, and support Paul in that, and support yourself. Like, it really comes down to just helping yourself. If you're listening and you feel that you could use some help and some motivation to be a little bit more resilient, or just to feel better about yourself, go out and grab that book and get the help that you're looking for. So, Paul, thank you so much. I want to finish up. I always like to ask this question to kind of tie things together with my chats with people. And that is, if there was one to maybe three things you think someone needs to do to unleash the greatness within themselves, what would that be?
Be authentic and be yourself is definitely one, because trying to be somebody else brings its own pressure. We all created to be a hero, as I spoke about earlier on, and that's so important. Like, be yourself and be real, be kind. And I often say, I'll probably finish up on this one, really, is I often say that self-care is vitally important. So there's a quote I actually got earlier on, is self-care is giving the world the best of you instead of what's left of you. And
beautiful.
When it comes to self-care, I think an awful lot of people in this world, particularly maybe COVID times, where they've now had time to reflect a little bit. And it's okay to give yourself time to sit back, have a cup of coffee, lie on the couch for 20 minutes with a blanket over you, sit beside the fire, chat to your dog, do whatever you need to do, but do it for you. This life is not about everybody else. I mean, I've had to reflect a lot on my life and some of the decisions I have made. But when I became ill was my little trigger point to go, okay, Paul, you need to really become yourself again. I was rushing around. It was all about playing loads of golf and rush, rush, rush. But now it's all about, don't worry about it. And if you are a golfer and you're listening to this, if you hit a bad shot, it's not going to be your last one. So just keep on playing, keep on smiling. And just, I've kind of started writing my own little quotes, and I've just got 3 here I'm going to read out to you.
Yeah.
Do something today that your future self is going to be proud of. Mm. Whether that's going out there and talking to somebody and expressing a feeling, do it. Because 99% of this world are just going to support you, and they're going to give you a little bit of advice. And even if they don't say anything, often a smile is plenty. We're all capable of doing amazing things, and we all hold that key. It's about, do you face up to it and let it happen? Hey, sometimes we may fail, but what if we don't? And finally, to all those people battling out there, stay strong and keep moving forward, because tomorrow will be a brighter day. I, Paul Coghlan, promise that.
Beautiful.
That's it from me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those. Those are amazing. I absolutely love them. I'm going to write those down myself and put them. I might steal them and give you credit on Instagram. I don't know. No, those are great. I love them. So thank you for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your message. Thank you for your inspiration in going out and sharing this story with other people, and just being an inspiration to everybody you come in contact with. That's amazing. So thank you.
And Adam, to you, thank you for the opportunity. Often when you go on a podcast, you don't know about this person. You've made me feel comfortable and confident. And for you, thank you. And I wish you continued success with your Horizon Connect podcast.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot. So we're going to wrap things up. Thank you so much, Paul. And everybody listening, please go connect with Paul. Go grab that ebook or the online course, whichever one resonates, or both, if they resonate with you, and reach out to Paul if you want to know more about him. And everybody, go out there, unleash your greatness today, live your life to the fullest.